Oh yes, this is the Hardcore Marketing Show. I'm Casey Cheshire, your host for this epic journey. And today's show, sponsored by Cheshire Impact, on a mission to help people maximize their use of Pardot and Salesforce. CheshireImpact.com. Bam. And we're live, just like that. Magic click of the finger. And I'm excited to introduce to you all of you out there in the interwebs, an amazing marketing leader, a brand strategist. The awards, the accolades go for pages. Some of the highlights that I found: Fast 50 Readers' Choice Award, Business Week, an award for excellence with corporate advertising, Marketing Association, American AMA. There's finalists and awards. He is everywhere, and now he's here to talk to us, and we're going to learn from him. The CMO of SignalFx, Tom Butta. How are you, sir?
Oh, good. That's quite the introduction. Thanks very much.
Yeah, I almost lost myself in it. There's just so much to talk about.
No, it's so funny because you're so focused on what you have to get done, in a given day or a given week or a given quarter, right? That you don't look back. You're always looking ahead. So
right.
Thanks for a quick replay.
Good reminder of all the things that people have, and it's usually the tip of the iceberg, right? Normally there's so much more that you've been doing. Only a little bit of that gets that publicity. So I'm sure there's a lot more to discover.
Yeah. My philosophy, quite frankly, is in sharp contrast to a lot of other, I would call more famous, marketers or CMOs, who built their own brands.
Right.
I have always focused on building the brand of the company, right?
That you're at. Yeah. Totally.
So when you hear the name Red Hat today, it's a very, very important brand, and had helped to really bring to bear some pretty important things. And I'm proud of what we set out to do from the very beginning, which I think put it on a good trajectory. Obviously, they've done a ton of great work, but that was more important than me getting whatever my own brand name more importantly out there than theirs. So,
well, that's really cool. It means I should add selfless to that list of accolades.
I don't know.
Tireless, selfless promoter. So this is what I want to do. I want to tell people the theme is about marketing leadership. You are the theme. This is your show today. And,
okay.
And so we're going to talk about marketing strategy, technology, process, even career. Like, how did you get where you're at? And how we like to start out is, let me pick this thing up for you here.
Okay.
This is heavy. All right. This is Thor's hammer. And now you're in receipt of that. Take that hammer and smash for me some kind of bogus marketing strategy, or you hear misconceptions. I know it's heavy. Go ahead, just smash misconceptions in the marketing world or the business world that just drive you crazy.
Okay, here we go. Ready?
Smash.
All right. Yeah. So here's what people face every day that are marketers. They face a lot of other people who think they're marketers. See, it's one of those, nobody questions the data coming out of finance, or frankly, nobody questions the quality of the sales engagement, or for that matter, the quality of the product, right? But everybody's got an opinion about marketing. And that makes it really challenging. So the myth is I know about marketing, my opinion matters, my brother, my sister, my kid, my wife, my husband, my girlfriend, my whatever, right, said that your logo is, or who do, and how come the website is, and that kind of makes them an expert. And so that's tough to deal with. And so there's ways to handle that, right? One is to welcome input, right? Frankly, having other opinions matter, but don't over rotate, right, against any of it. Even if it's coming from other execs, or frankly, from other people in the industry. I mean, the people you want to really pay most attention to are your customers. or the prospects that you're talking to. How do they feel? What's their impression? Because they're looking at you in the context of a lot of others.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So when I think, when I say, the myth is that everybody inside the company has something to say about marketing, and we should all listen. The answer is that, well, yes, we'll certainly take that input, and there may be a spark of an idea. Yesterday, a guy stopped by and he's like, I tried this at another company, it worked pretty well. And we're like, wow, that's really cool, right? That's a great idea. Thanks for bringing it to us, right? Because we don't purport to have all of the new ideas.
Sure.
So you welcome that input, but it's important that you don't over rotate to it and just go, so-and-so said, like, we should go this way, not that way. So let's go this way. And I've had people working for me who just quickly want to solve it because they're maybe more senior, right, than they are. And I'm like, well, hang on. Like, let's just think this through. Why do you think he said that? Well, he said that because, yeah, okay, that's right. So wouldn't it be more beneficial? We can take some of that, but then we can actually incorporate it this way. And they're like, yeah, okay, you're right. So anyway, not sure that's exactly a myth. It's just a belief.
It's a belief, man. And it's so funny. The armchair people, armchair police officers watching YouTube, armchair marketers, everyone's got an opinion. And it's interesting. It's probably because I was thinking we're all consumers. So that's probably why we think that we know what's going on. And to your point, a little bit of humility, welcoming, being curious about people's ideas. But at the same time, don't get distracted by them. I mean, we get distracted in marketing all the time. Oh, what's that?
Yeah, it's easy.
Yeah. And I guess the other misconception, I'm glad you bring that up, because I think I've had to learn this too. I'm not always the buyer. If you see a commercial on TV that's horrible, well, maybe it wasn't for you.
There you go. Yeah, that's exactly right. And so, like, the people, like I said, the people who's, first of all, I respect everybody's opinions. Everyone's entitled to have one. But the opinions that particularly matter to me are people closest to the people that we're actually trying to do business with. Right. Like our engineers here, for example, they're like, they think differently. Their context is different than than certainly my life. And I'm trying to take my knowledge and experience and make it work for people like them. But I really, really am interested in what they have to say and how they think and what matters to them and what they like and what they don't like, and just take that information. Yeah. Right? And then they'll go, oh, wow, I never thought of that. Yeah, that's really cool. Or you'll say something and it will go, and it'll just like, yeah, okay, well, that's not going to work.
Right.
So,
right. Sometimes I'm not necessarily good at this, taking the opinions and ideas. And so I've really been working on it. And one of the things I have on my desk right here, I don't know if you can see this, it's the Mars rover.
Oh yeah.
It's the Curiosity rover. And it just sits on my desk to remind me to be curious. Somebody has an interesting idea. Oh, why do you, instead of just jumping on top of it, and you don't know a buyer persona, that wouldn't work ever. It's like, oh, well, why do you think that? Or what's your experience with that? And you don't have to do anything with it, but you can just be curious about it instead of judging it.
Yeah. Well, so that's something else that I think, if I were to just sort of relay a little bit of career advice, and this is like, frankly, it's life advice.
So it's usually the same, right?
Well, so being curious means you're willing to receive. You put yourself out there.
Sure.
In a position to receive information, whether it's reading a book or watching a podcast or, or frankly, listening to someone. What's interesting, if you observe conversation, interactions between people, and particularly in a group setting, people are so busy wanting to say or add to the conversation. They want to add what they have in their mind. They're so busy waiting to get in that they actually stop listening to what other people are saying.
Right. They want their moment in the spotlight. We've all been there. What is that? We're just not listening. That's not good listening. Is that what that is? Or
it's not. I mean, frankly, the art of the pregnant pause, you never know what's going to come up, right? If you just give people a little bit of air. Um, it helps to ask the right kinds of questions and things like that, but just be willing to hear what people are saying, and then maybe ask them to go a little bit deeper, or right, to like truly understand it. That's actually what being curious is about, because you can get nuggets. I mean, my job is in large part to listen, right? So when I come into a company and and they're like, okay, do your thing, and the first thing that I'll do is I'll spend time with people around the organization.
Yeah.
And I will listen, right? And I will do the same and go out to the market and spend time with our customers and do the same thing. And what I'm listening for nuggets, right? Because like the answers all lie within. I mean, they really do. Because typically, I mean, if I founded a company before, but in many of these cases, I'm working with founders and working with people who are part of the founding team, and working with people who have been in the space, right? And then if you just if you just listen, you're somewhere, if you let them talk, somewhere over the course of time, and it doesn't take a lot of time, you're going to find something inside of what they say, and you're going to go, oh, hang on, there's something there, right? And you're going to circle it. Like if I look at my notes, I still take a lot of notes, right?
Right.
My book, and I see things that I've got circles around and squares around, and like I keep kind of coming back to them, and then I use those in the next conversation with somebody else, and I'll sort of weave that in and say, well, how do you think about this concept, or what does this turn of phrase, mean to you, right? How do you think about that?
Right. And you wouldn't necessarily know, you wouldn't catch that if you were thinking about what you're going to say. If you're just waiting to fire your word gun as a response, you may miss that takeaway that just came out.
Exactly. And that's, I mean, it's the art of a good conversationalist, but it's also, I mean, it's the art of selling as well. You want your customer to be part of the solution, right? And so they're going to need to, you're going to need to understand what it is that works for them. And here's the other thing that's really interesting. The other thing that I listen for, not only are those nuggets, like, because at the end of the day, it's all about really communication and messaging, and like, how do you say things in the right way, in the most provocative way, in the most truthful way, in a way that cuts through. But what you're also looking for, and you can hear it, but you can feel it, is what's the emotional trigger? Like, what's the emotional trigger that you're trying to evoke? And so that can be confidence, right? That can be.
What do you mean by that? You want to get like an emotion out of them, or you want?
Yeah. So think of, like, at the end of the day, what is the emotion that you're looking to, that you can potentially satisfy with your solution?
Okay.
And so, yes, you can connect these things, and yes, you can get this analytics, and you can get these insights and all of that. But like, at the end of the day, what is it? Is it to be more certain about what you're doing? Is it to have greater confidence in your willingness to innovate and push out code, because now you know that you can roll that code back, in seconds if you get alerts that there's something wrong and it doesn't affect your customer? Does that give you confidence? Like, confidence is a good thing, right? Security is a good thing. Knowledge, intelligence, but the emotional side of it, not just like, the sort of
Head level stuff.
Head level stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, it's so true. I mean, right, the head level stuff. I think I've heard a lot of Europeans who come over and try to sell in America get frustrated because if you're talking to someone on a sales cycle and they're just in their head, they're just replying. It's like they're on a away message, out of office, if they're just in their head level and you don't necessarily get them the demo. It was like, oh yeah, great. Do you have any questions? No. But when you can touch that emotional level, the whole thing shifts to getting, even if they're angry, they just get engaged then at that point, and it's a different conversation altogether.
Yeah. All right. So here's, here's another myth. I'm not going to smash it, but I think I might just like toss it.
Toss it. Good. Yeah. Just crush it.
Just toss it. Yeah. And that is like, it typically comes from technology-driven companies, but frankly, I think many companies fall victim to it, and that is, let me tell you everything that's really good about what we have.
Mm-hmm.
And so therefore, like, let me tell you the 16 advantages for using this, and here's all the 32 reasons why, and here's what we can do. And hang on, so it also can do this, and it can do that. And it's like, let me give you all of this information.
Yeah, overload.
Right. And so think about the noise that we deal with. Mm-hmm. You're creating a facility here.
Sure.
People to do what? It's like, you know what? We're all dealing with stuff every day. Here's some unique insights from people who have been through that. And maybe, just maybe, there may be something in there that you can learn from.
Yeah.
Right. Hopefully. So you're trying to help people make sense of things. And frankly, if you can own the problem, and help make sense of it, then you're adding value. Oh, and by the way, here's how we can help. But you're also, you know what I mean?
I own the problem, though.
Well, yeah, it's kind of it's a
cool phrase.
Yeah. So, the problem is, let's just say, in our environment, I know I need to innovate and move as fast as companies that have been born leveraging all of these new technologies so they can innovate quickly, coming out of nowhere, and they're disrupting industries.
Sure.
And I'm this traditional company that hasn't done things like that. So I know I need to do that, and I'm challenged by how to do it because I'm a little bit held back, but at the same time, I want to move forward. By owning the problem, it says that we're relating to that. We know that this is a journey, right? And so we've seen others who have embarked on this journey, this cloud native journey, do things like this. We've seen you can find yourself in a few different stages in this journey. And then the first stage typically looks like this, and the second looks like this, and the third looks like this. Here are the kinds of things that you'll experience as you go through this. Here are the barriers that you're going to encounter. Here are the people in the process and the technologies that you're going to have to, make some decisions. So it's like that sort of guiding.
Mm-hmm.
I like that word, guide versus advisor. Everybody wants to be the trusted advisor, but I've had a lot of financial advisors that haven't guided me very well. Like, I actually would love to have a guide. You don't climb Mount Everest without a guide.
That's exactly where my head went to, was the mountain climb. The guide's with you, doing it with you.
They're with you. They've been there. They've done it. Right.
Done it.
They don't leave you. They don't go like, all right, good luck. Right.
Yeah. Here's some advice. Don't look down. Thanks.
Or as my Irish wife would say, best of luck, guys. Right.
Oh, yeah? Does she have a nice accent like that?
Well, no, she's making fun of other people who have accents.
Oh, okay.
But she is Irish.
It's a cool accent, though.
I don't hear the accent anymore, so.
It's too bad. Get her a couple Guinness, half pints of Guinness, and come back.
Yeah.
So, guide for advisor.
Versus
the advisor. Own the problem. But then the information. Why do you think we tend to give too much information? It's hiding behind it. Oh, it's easy. Yeah.
No, it's not. We're not at all hiding behind it because we're proud of it, and
true.
There's probably a lot to say about it, but it's everything needs context, and I think it's crafting a good story and crafting communications is actually quite hard, and
simplifying it too takes effort.
There was a period of time when I actually did a lot of writing, and I was doing two blog posts a week, and I was just writing a lot. And the interesting thing about writing a lot is the more you write, the better you get.
Yeah.
Like there's this process of it's like reductionism, and can I say that in less space? Can I say what I mean with less words? Is there a better way to say it? Can I remove some of the sort of baggage that we tend to load in, because it's okay now because I can actually, if you actually replay if you annotate this conversation,
sure,
right, it looks really weird when you read it out, but in a conversation it works because it's how it works. But when you're writing, when you're reading, that unique sort of reductionism and synthesis in a way that's that keeps you wanting to move on. That's hard.
It is hard. That's probably why I prefer to speak.
There you go.
It's a little easier to do that, but that's probably why podcasts are, and the video content are increasing. And even to you mentioned, transcribe. God, try to transcribe me, with all my craziness. But at the same time, it makes it more real, and I think we're kind of seeking out that authenticity in marketing too, knowing that there's the shysters out there that just are trying to sell us as hard as the sales guys are, to get some real authentic people telling you, look, this is what this product helped me. Use it or don't, but here's an option for it. That authenticity, the real language. It's not purified. It's not ultra edited.
Right. So I think another to sort of build off of what we're saying is like so okay. You don't want to like just dump all this information on your reader / prospect or customer, but
right.
you want to be discreet about it. And you want to relate it, if you've been listening, right? You want to relate it to the issues they're challenged with, and you're trying to add value, and then demonstrate how you do what you do, right?
Mm-hmm.
In a clear way, and with not a lot of superlatives like baked into it. Just like, boom, give me the information and show me,
right?
Ideally, but the best this presentation. That's what that applause was.
Yay!
Being
a live studio audience.
Yeah, exactly. Right. The laugh, put on the laugh sign.
Yeah, exactly.
So, applause. What I was going to say is, in this era of always on continuous communication, the impact of social media, we know that it's not what we say that matters anymore. It's actually what they say.
Oh, interesting. What do you mean? Reviews or?
Well, think about it, right? So if you go to purchase something, probably the last place you go is to the brand itself. You're going, want to go on a vacation and interesting places to go. What do people have to say?
Right.
And so you go to all these sites, and yes, you do look at reviews, and people look at reviews even for technology companies like ours. They look to find out, well, what are other people doing? Right? Or what are other people doing that look like us? Or what are other people doing that look like what we want to look like? Right? And so that's super important to get your customers and others, to represent, the challenges that they've had, and to be willing to share that story as well on, and to the degree that they weave you into that, well, that's a bonus.
Right.
So that to me is, that's probably underemphasized, from a marketer's perspective. It's one, like, everybody's got a logo slide, but like,
true.
Have them talk, have them tell their stories, give them a platform to tell their stories.
Yeah, not just a logo. It's not like a notch in the bedpost. You got a real story from a happy customer type
Yeah.
thing. Yeah.
Or someone who went through this process and like, it was really hard, and, this is what it was like. And we learned
Right.
a lot of lessons, like probably because of that save you some pain because we went through this, but we were early and that's what we did. Yeah.
It makes sense. Trying to think of how I combine all. Do you have a overall strategy? You mentioned you're getting to a company at the very beginning. Do you have an overall approach to just marketing in general?
Well, I think I've kind of hinted at some of it already.
Yeah.
So the kind of conditions that I've been brought into have been where there's a lot of change happening, right? Something a market space has typically not quite been formed. It's bubbling up, and
Right. Yeah.
there's this movement, right? And it's sort of bubbling up, and what's happening is that a lot of people who are in that space have a lot to say. But they're saying it from their perspective, and they're talking about what we do, right? As opposed to how we can help. And so as it's turned out, time after time, this is the fourth big market space that I'll have been a part of.
Yeah, I've noticed that your track record just boom, boom, boom. Marketing leader, different technology.
Yeah, I mean, so this will be the fourth big sort of market space.
Big bang.
That we need to make sense of. And so that it goes back to that. It's like, okay, what is this ultimately? What is the value of it? Meaning what it is we're all doing. And how can we bring unique value to people who need to embrace that? And then how can we have others who also believe in it, find those others who believe in it, and how do we get them, surface them? And then how do we create content that provides value, guides, and doesn't necessarily, sell and hawk as much as, adds that guidance.
Right.
So that's the starting point.
Yeah. Tip of the iceberg, or the starting line.
Absolutely. Well, what it does is it creates a framework. It creates a framework that you can then feed a lot of things in and under.
Got it.
Yeah.
You got to start somewhere with that. How does process fit in for you? I see a lot of folks, they'll do strategy or they'll do tactics, but then, there's 5,000 leads stuck between marketing and sales, and no one catches it because no one ever thought to think about what would happen if sales get sent leads that they never receive. Like the process, the gaps are all over the place. So process. Where does that fit in? Connecting the dots. You don't want leads to go from one side to the other and then just fall through the cracks. Do you have a way that you approach that?
Well, so we work very closely with both the product team and the sales team.
Yeah.
And in fact, that's how I think about marketing. Like, we're this healthy balance between the two.
Oh, sure.
Right. And frankly, if you over-rotate towards, marketing should live inside of the product organization, and guess what? It becomes simply about product marketing, or marketing should live inside the sales organization. And what does that look like? Well, it's like sales enablement.
Yeah.
Right?
Sell.
So, so we work closely with both, but, we have and our measure ourselves based on the business metrics that we contribute to. And now, thankfully, we literally have we have the ability to measure the impact that we are having much more discreetly than we ever did before. So we know the impact of every single touch that we have been able to orchestrate, and where sales has fit into that entire process, and what the results have been from a customer's perspective. So it makes ROI analyses, pretty effective, because we know what's pulling, what's not pulling, what's working, what's not working, what what's driving better quality leads versus not, right? So,
Right.
So we do have a process, right? So our process is we have 4 reports that we issue daily that show the current state of our highest value prospects. It shows who's on the website. We literally have a Slack channel about like literally who's on the website,
Who's coming, who's browsing,
who's browsing, what
Yep.
are they doing, what, you know, who's requested trials. And we map the entire funnel, you know, once we get people. So this week we had, I think, 5 events that we were a part of.
Jeez.
Around the world, literally. And all of those leads have been scrubbed and loaded with notes and distributed. We have follow-up, nurture, communications built in. So we have a process that's really baked in terms of how we handle that. And then, you know, and that's just wave 1, right? And then there's like 6 stages to that. And then they move into a different, you know, they go into active, and then there's another process for nurturing that. And then they go into customer, and there's a process for nurturing that. So, yeah, we're really prescriptive about how we do it. So, you know, process in that regard means everything, because, I mean, you're working with potentially a valuable, you know, asset in a quote unquote qualified lead, i.e. prospect.
Right.
How you treat that, right, is, you know, it says a lot about your company.
Yeah. And in a continuous process too, I think sometimes where people got in trouble in the past was they had separate processes. You know, there was the marketing gig, and then you threw something over the wall to sales, and then they never told you what was up, and that's fine. You never told them what was up, and didn't quite work out. Yeah.
I mean, I learned that lesson pretty early. So what, I was at a company where we had to do, it was very much a sales culture, like probably renowned sales culture.
Right. Yeah.
PTC in Boston.
Okay.
And I got there and like great sales process and hygiene and acumen, but like incredibly aggressive. So like sales ran everything, right? Mm-hmm. And there was a product, yes, but sales was like, they didn't have marketing for like the longest time.
Wow.
So when I got there, the company had been hugely successful and then had lost its way. And then we basically repositioned it and resurfaced the company as the leader of a new expanded category off of what their core was. And it gave them a new reason to live. And the company's since done super well. It's its own story, but it's specific to this conversation is I inherited a very big department. I inherited a lot of people. But what I really wanted was somebody that understood our sales process, had relationships with the sales force, and understood our product. And when I went to hire a very strong kind of number 2, I wanted that person to be from the inside. And so I was successful in finding that person who knew nothing other than his own opinions about what marketing does, like what real marketing does. And so learned a lot, and was also able to bring extraordinary visibility and awareness for me, and frankly, ease the relationship building across the product and the sales organizations. And so we made an incredibly great team. After I left, he became head of marketing. Right. And then since went on to actually run an entire division. Wow. So probably talented guy. And the end of the story is that at our sales kickoff, we for the first time in the company history had instituted the process of building these nurture campaigns, and understood that marketing's role was no longer to do exactly what you said, which was to throw leads over the wall and go, right, our job's done. Like, how's it going? And so to demonstrate that, we had two salespeople come up on stage, and we had like 6 or 7 other people armed with tennis balls. And one was like the website, another was an event, another was an email, another was an SDR, an outbound caller, right? And we all said, so right, this is how leads have happened before, and everybody like threw the tennis balls, like
right.
dozens of tennis balls. I said, like, so what happens? You don't catch any of them, right? Maybe 1 out of 12, and they're like, yep, it's a total waste. And so we instituted a process of how we can stage it, because we understood really what the selling process was before. We were like integrated in with it. And whereas before it was like, well, marketing does that, and then leave us alone. Sales does this.
Right.
So we instituted a process, and that was it was a while ago. So
I like that you understood what was going on first, right? You didn't just try to push some process in on everybody.
Well, here's the thing. Like, what did that demonstrate? It demonstrated that I actually owned their problem.
Own their problem. Yeah. From earlier. Yeah. You do that internally as well. So it's like owning the problem internally just as much as we need to own the problem.
Exactly.
Externally.
Right. And what did it also convey? That I tapped into what was frustrating for them.
Yeah. The frustration, the emotion of it. And it's something I love the story of the presentation and throwing the tennis balls at people. I'm sure they love throwing them too.
Yeah. They get a little carried away, but yeah.
Did you have like a part 2? This is what we're going to do once we help you out. And it's like a conveyor belt of tennis.
It's exactly right. Yeah.
That's cool.
I still have the slide actually. We did a sketch, like before and after. Right?
Yeah. That's cool.
Yeah, with caricatures.
To your point though, you got to sell that internally, you not just operate in a silo.
So I was in that case, and in the case of in other cases, but in particularly there, because it was such a strong culture. I was very much a change agent.
Right.
And let me tell you, change agents have a gigantic target on their back and on their chest. Right. And it's like, how quickly can we get rid of this? Because people don't like to change, even if you have to.
True. They don't like it at all. I don't like to change.
I mean, we say we do, but we don't. Right? It's always easier to like stay than it is to go. It's always
totally
easier, right. That kind of thing.
Try a new restaurant out, or just do the one that you've eaten at that you know you're going to get a good meal at. Yeah.
So part of what I brought there was the experience that I've had in dealing with what I call challenger brands.
Okay.
And so what is a classic challenger brand? Like in the old days of like Hertz and Avis was like number 2 and proud of it. Like
right.
Classic challenger, Pepsi, Coke.
Yep.
Right. That like Burger King, McDonald's, like there's always that Apple, Microsoft in the early days of Apple.
Right.
So when I got to Red Hat, it was clear that Red Hat was a classic challenger brand, that Red Hat stood for something open source, opening the source code.
Versus software. Windows or versus everything.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because it just wasn't done. Like it was like you kept the source code, right? And even though people's systems would crash month after month, year over year, we had to wait as consumers of these products for the big monolith in Washington to like do an update.
Yep. The big waterfall update.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And now all of a sudden we're like, no, you don't need to do that. We can actually like course correct today.
Yeah.
On that bug. And now get them the microservice. We can break all that up into little pieces and carve out little bits that we want to adjust and not have to screw the whole thing up. Right.
Some power user bumped into it, figured it out, community vetted it. Let's do it. Let's go.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So, but like a lot of careers were built on first IBM and then on Microsoft, right? So 95%, 98% like market share, let alone mind share, let alone career share, let alone like.
Yeah. How did you compete in that realm? Because you're right. I mean, Mac was kind of coming and going anyways, but to the Windows, how do you compete with that?
So the good news was there were 2.5 million people who believed in what we were doing.
Really?
Who were these open source zealots who were downloading
right
code for free, you know, but the bad news is that they didn't pay us anything, and we actually didn't even know their names, right? So
oh geez,
I had to figure out like how there was like this community of believers, and so like if you think about it, like Red Hat stood for like freedom and sharing and like all these fundamental like democratic, right, ideals. And then there was a bunch of people, the revolutionaries, right, who also believed in it and got behind it. And so I had to figure out a way to mobilize that group and that sentiment. And then I had to find people inside of organizations who could proselytize for us, for the movement, right, within their organizations and prove why actually this is like a way better idea. And so that's what we did. And, you know, I remember we went to, I think it was like a CIO conference, and there were all these, and we had when we were invited, because we had elevated the brand profile, and we were invited to be on a panel, you know, and with Microsoft and Sun and, you know, IBM. And here was like a guy from Red Hat with his fedora and his red socks, like, and he's, and I'm telling you that this was a piling on. Like it was like this, you know, our guy was outnumbered. People started like, yeah, but we're talking about our business here, and how can you trust this open source and somebody's going to hack into it and it's going to this and it's going to that, and how is it reliable and how is it this, and yeah, and you just sort of feel the audience going, yeah, no way, yeah. And then like this guy gets the mic and he goes, you know what, I mean, exactly what you're saying. I feel exactly the same way. Or actually, I did feel that way until I was in the cafeteria one day, and this kid who was wearing these Birkenstocks and this South Park T-shirt. I think he had like an earring or a nose ring, and he goes, "Sir, hi, you don't know me. I'm so and so, and I work on the server team for our intranet." And oh well, nice to meet you. And he said, "Hey, thanks for letting us use those computers that we were going to donate." And he goes, "Oh, what? Oh, I thought you mean those 36 ones that were out of date? I thought we donated them to the church." And he said, "Well, yeah, well, we thought we may be able to use them still." So, and he tells this story about how he runs they decided to experiment using the intranet and run it on this, you know, basically this open source platform. And so the guy goes, "Well, yeah, wasn't that like a year ago?" And he said, "Yeah." And he said, "Well, how's it going?" And he says, "Well, yeah, it's actually going really well." "Well, how many times has it crashed?" He says, "Well, that's the thing. It never has." He said, "No, it's never crashed." And he said, "Well, what about this?" And he starts asking me, and you know, and how easy is it to oh yeah, we like all the time. We just updated any bugs we see, we just updated. "What are you talking about?" "Well, it's this open source." And anyway, so let me find out more about that. So he took that learning and then he like took it to the next step, and he said, "Well, let's apply it to the next server's, you know, system, email or whatever it was." And that worked really well. And he goes, so he's telling this story, and he said, "So like, I'm just telling you, this stuff works. It's really manageable, and it's actually a lot cheaper than what these other guys."
A lot cheaper.
And he's like, "Well, who are you?" I'm the CIO of FedEx. And it was like, whoa. And like all of a sudden, the momentum of the meeting just shifted. But someone, a customer, right, was validating what everybody else had been experienced, but they were able to show the new way and how it worked for them. And so, we just tried tapping into that wherever we could. And, at the end of the day, it's sort of anti, democracy if you don't actually believe in it. Right. Like we just elevated it to this crazy level.
Sure. Well, but to have a story like that where you have someone just singing your praises at such a senior level, and all thanks to someone in your community, maybe that anonymous power geek code or dev user who had been playing around with it, and they're like, well, you know what, this thing, it's been up, man. It's not going down.
Yeah, well, and then you find out that people at this little startup company selling books online called Amazon.
Oh, geez.
Was actually their entire infrastructure is based on their entire e-commerce infrastructure is based on Red Hat Linux, and they're like, why? Because it never goes down. We can't afford to go down.
Right?
Like people go to the bookstore and get their book, but like we would say to order online now, like or videos or whatever it is, and we're down, or like we can't process because
I know.
Like so. Anyway, so what's interesting. I hope this is helpful.
Yeah, this is very cool.
Sort of riffing.
Cool to hear the history of that.
But what's interesting is that, like, the three cornerstones of these industries that I've been a part of have all led to today. That's what's really interesting about where I am. So Red Hat, open source. What has open source done? It's completely changed how software gets developed.
Oh, 100%. Yeah.
Right. Such that, Facebook's move fast and break things culture was like innovate. But by the way, the founding team of SignalFx was the team at Facebook that built the monitoring system that was able to monitor the performance of their code. And if there was a bug or a problem, they can roll it back quickly so it never affected the customer.
Right.
So the experience that the customer had was always a positive when they never were affected. So open source changed how software got developed. I went to this company in Boston, PTC, Product Development Software, which went from an R&D function to a company like approach. And it was, we basically sold the importance of products and how to go about that. Yep. Children don't wake up in the morning on their birthday in the hopes of unwrapping a CRM system, right? It's like, it's the product. And so what are you doing as a company to build better products? So we built that, and we also created this, I'll undersell myself here, but created what I called the value roadmap, which was a playbook on how to create and capture value strategically by doing product development across an entire company. But I've created those playbooks, those value maps for these different industries because everybody's selling something and nobody's adding the value, helping me, guide me on this journey. So there was that second industry. And then the third was at Sprinkler, the social media suddenly told us that it's not what we say, it's what they say. People never forget how you make them feel. So most people aren't necessarily having an experience with a physical product these days. They're having the experience with a digital service that enables them to get the physical product, if there's even a physical product. So right. Software is eating the world, Mark Andreessen, right? I worked at Andreessen Horowitz, like unbelievable prophetic statement. Every company is becoming, if not are, software companies. Uber, Lyft, Airbnb, Stripe, Square, Nike's direct-to-consumer movement. It's all software enabled. Who creates the software that monitors the software that defines your business?
Exactly.
That's what we do.
Yeah. Wow. Okay.
So who creates the software that monitors the software that's eating the world? That's what we do. And it has elements of open source and it has elements of like the experience and is what matters. Like, so that's what I think is really cool about what SignalFx does is, we provide real time. We have a streaming architecture that enables you, that ingests all this data, massive amounts of data, analyzes it as it's streaming through the system, is able to detect what's unique or anomalous, what's not supposed to be there, within a second or two, and can then pinpoint where there's a problem and help you automatically remediate or affect that problem without actually a human being getting involved or without it affecting your customer.
It'd be so much faster not having to get a human involved. And you're right. Before it even affects the customer, it might as well not even happen.
I mean, there are teams of, we have a customer who had, they do these like product launches that, last minutes, and they used to have teams of like hundreds of, tens and hundreds of developers like on standby, of engineers on standby, like in a war room. Right, let's go. Okay, it's up. Like everybody's hitting their site, everybody's hitting their app, like bots, everything. It's like systems are crashing. Where's the problem? They're going to figure it out, fix it. Somebody's shopping cart spinning. Like now, somebody's on Twitter. Hey, man,
this is the worst ever.
Yeah,
hate you guys.
So,
yeah.
But now, by working with us, like they've just got a handful of people involved, and because they're able to see, literally visually see what's happening and correct it if it's not automatically built into autocorrect. So
important for the scaling organization too. As you start to encounter problems you didn't even have, months ago.
Yeah.
Stay out in front of it. So instead of being reactive, you're more proactive for it all. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, what it does. So if Amazon, I think the statistic is Amazon updates a piece of software like every 17 seconds.
Yeah, their A/B tests last 30 seconds, and they've got millions of data points.
Like, so if that's how, and they're one of the most valued companies in the world, right? If that's how they're operating, and companies like Facebook and Google and Apple and others are basically software companies, like, and they were leveraging all of this new cloud native, technology. Every company has to every company has to ultimately become like them, because our user experience is now being influenced by the likes of, an Uber or Lyft. Like them or not, you get a car delivered to you in 2 to 3 minutes with 3 clicks of an app. It's like, what? How does that work? And it's you have to do anything, swipe a card, you don't have to do anything. Like, it's like done. That's an amazing experience. Like, well, we want that same, you go to Amazon, you want to get something, and it's like, you want to stream something, it's got to happen now. Like, we've been conditioned to real time, right? We've been conditioned to these experiences. Well, businesses have to operate that way as well, right? And at that level, because as consumers, it's what's happening over here in my life. Why can't that happen over here in my business, right? So, so that means that they have to have the facilities and the infrastructure and the technical engine to enable that. At the same time, they have to innovate, because those companies who are leading are just like massive innovators. I mean, Facebook's 2007. Facebook's, as I said, move fast and break things culture was what is today called DevOps. They didn't know what it was called then.
Sure.
Right? We didn't know that this was cloud native technologies and microservices, all this stuff. They were using this stuff. It was experimental.
Right.
Right. And yet that's why we bring so much credibility to what we do, even though we're still relatively small and kind of just getting going. I mean, we're working with some great companies that are highly dependent on us, but we have this history where we earned and learned a secret. And we've built this extraordinarily elegant architecture that is sophisticated and advanced, and it was built for where everything's going, right? So
right.
Anyway, enough of the sales pitch there.
No, it's interesting. To your point,
I just wanted to bring it together.
Yeah, the different corners of what you've experienced in life and your history from working at different places kind of comes together to where you're at now, and I can see how all lines up. So the last question I had for you, really around that too, and around the people cheering in the other room, thinking about marketers and your career and obviously been a senior thought leader and CMO, many, many, many years. If you were to look back and talk to little Tom, or Tom as he's entering his marketing career, what would you tell yourself? What kind of advice would you give yourself?
Well, I was known as Tommy. So
Tommy. Okay. Tommy,
yeah,
what would you tell Tommy?
yeah, or when I was really young, Tommy Boy.
I like the movie, huh?
Yeah. This was my grandfather was Thomas. Anyway, he called me Tommy Boy. Anyway, so what would I tell myself? So, good question. I kind of wish I had me then. But
Yeah.
there's this Spanish, this wonderful poetic Spanish. It's effectively a poem, and
Okay.
the translation of the title is "The Way Is in the Going."
Huh.
The way is in the going, and that's like the reality is that you just learn by going, right? And so, one of the lessons I would say is don't be afraid to take on something new or try something new because you're going to learn something. I have a young guy whom I've now known for about 5 years. He worked for my wife's company. He went to the same college I went to, many years apart. He was also the captain of the tennis team, many years apart. He was an intern at my wife's company. I learned something about him when he changed his flight after a family vacation. Instead of routing himself directly to school, he rerouted his flight to meet her in New York. And before he then went to school, he worked his vacations, his spring breaks and his fall breaks with the team instead of going to, Fort Lauderdale, Florida or something.
Sure.
On spring break. Like, incredible work ethic, right? Learned a lot. And one of the things and then he wound up working for me at Sprinkler, and now he's working with me here at SignalFx. And one of the things he always said when I said this, and I know this, I'm asking a lot of you here, and he said, or this made me feel like an awkward situation, whatever it might be. And he said, no, I just look at all this as a learning experience. And what a healthy attitude, right? Because a lot of people that certainly in that generation would be like, what am I doing? I'm not dealing with this. This is like, I don't like it. But for him, it's like, where can I get this experience? See the cultural dynamics or the market condition or the sales pressure or the, whatever it might be, the product misfit or the competitive, all of these things, leadership, right? Mentorship, collaborate, where can I get that experience? You can't learn it in a book, right?
No, you can't.
You just learn it. But being open to it is really important. So I would say that, what I would advise myself as an earlier version of me would be just look at everything as an opportunity to learn and embrace it. Take it, right? And then the other thing that I would say, which I've said earlier today, is listen.
Yeah.
Just listen. And try and learn, and then participate in the dialogue, and don't be so anxious to talk, right? But sure, contribute, but listen. So those are,
I love that.
and I think they're kind of life skills, but
True life mirroring the career.
So the guy, so the guy, me, who was always the youngest one in the room or on the court or on the field or whatever it might be, late bloomer, a little bit of an overachiever, suddenly someone with a lot of experience, right? So what I try to, I love the people that I work with, and I mean that actually. I have a very much of a collegial, approach to the team. We are very transparent, open, human, and authentic with one another. And we actually solve problems together really easily that way, because we have ultimate respect for one another. We get pissed off at each other, we'll say it, right? Or, somebody's slacking. We might give them brief in a
Right.
in a healthy, humorous kind of a way, but there's a message, right? But it's none of this, behind the scenes and closed doors and who's texting somebody while you're in the middle of a presentation and like we're slacking. I mean, I'm like, I can't stand that. And so, anyway, I think that we've built a good group, and I believe in them. I stand them up on stage with me when we give presentations. I've got their back, and I think they've got mine. Because I think they appreciate what we're building.
I could see that. You can definitely tell it even from the way you talk about them and your team and wanting them to succeed, and that selfless, right? Red Hat, the brand, as opposed to, putting yourself out there, helping the team succeed. That makes a lot of sense.
The culture here, at SignalFx is really is a lot like that. I mean, we got a guy who's like, okay, I'm going to grill this Friday. Like, it's in California, right? So you can do that, but, and it just, I don't know. It's just open. It's good.
What part of California?
We're in San Mateo. Yeah. So
okay.
Bay Area.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm a transplanted. They say, yeah, he's an East Coast guy.
Yeah. They said
I'm wearing black, right?
Still an East Coast guy, huh?
Yeah, but hey, born in Brooklyn, raised in, in and around New York. So.
Yeah. You can't mess that up. It's ingrained.
Yeah,
for sure. Well, this has been awesome. Where are some of the places people can connect with you?
Well, LinkedIn for sure.
Okay.
I think it's Thomas Butta or Tom Butta. I can't remember. Twitter at Thomas Butta.
Okay.
Those are probably the two best places. Easy access if they want to reference this chat.
Right. Yeah. Don't be a weirdo. Reference where you first.
Yeah, that would be helpful.
Send the anonymous LinkedIn messages. Say hi. And also SignalFx is on Twitter, and also SignalFx.com. So.
Yeah, and we are looking. We're looking for really good product marketers and
nice.
Some demand gen people and field marketing. And so, if anyone's knows something about the space, because that's going to help, and has some experience and interest, hit me up at either. Probably LinkedIn would be best for that.
Best for that. Okay, definitely. Yeah. Definitely. And they should be in the area now, or looking to go there, or remote, or what's your thought?
So, it'd be great. There's so much that happens at headquarters here.
It's true. I heard grilling and I'm sold. So.
Yeah, exactly. But you know what I mean? Like just the hallway conversations.
Yeah.
You learn a lot. So that's ideal. I definitely have people who are in London and, in New York. And so for the right person with the right talent, as long as we have an office, I think it can work.
Got it.
We typically have like a microcosm of the rest of the company.
Yep.
But in product marketing in particular, it's probably better to be close to the product team.
Close to the product team, 100%. Yeah. Makes sense. Well, that's great. Well, thank you again. This has been a lot of fun. I don't know if you noticed, but the time is just like warped by.
It is. I only have 2% battery life.
Oh, geez.
So it has been a while. Yeah. No. Thank you. I really appreciate you reaching out and having me on. And so this will be live.
Yeah. Yeah. Right now, everyone's going to be hearing it. And so, yeah, I'll just say, hey, everyone else out there, if you learned anything, I know you did, because I've got 2 pages of notes, then it's time to share this with someone else and get this in their hands. And anyone that is a bang up product marketer, give them the shout out so they can reach out to Tom and apply for that. So
appreciate your time.
Yeah, man. Absolutely.
And the opportunity to chat with you.
Yeah, you bet. And this has been the Hardcore Marketing Show. We will see you all next time.